All right, let's jump right in. We're going to unpack a really powerful conversation between three pastors. And they're wrestling with a question that honestly, so many people in the church feel deep down, but maybe don't know how to put into words.
And this is the big question, right here. What happens after you're saved? The church is often really good at talking about that initial moment, that decision, but then what? What does it actually look like to live this thing out on a Tuesday afternoon when the kids are screaming, work is stressful, and, real change just feels impossible?
So here's the big idea that they build everything on. That first experience, that moment of salvation, what they call freedom, it's not the finish line, not even close. It's just a starting block for a much longer and way more intentional journey. Okay, so let's break this down because this distinction is absolutely key. Think of it like this. Freedom is the pardon. It's getting saved from something, right? From your past, from sin. But formation, that's the power to change. That's being saved unto something, actually becoming more like Jesus. You see how that shifts everything? It's not just a one-time event. It's a lifelong process of transformation.
Now, what makes this whole conversation so compelling is who's having it. We're talking about three pastors, and you're going to see their backstories couldn't be more different. But what's so wild is that their completely separate, unique paths all led them to the exact same place. This deep conviction that formation is what really matters.
So first up, you've got James, and his story is just, wow. He was a total atheist, a frat guy, living that party lifestyle to the fullest. Then one day, he gets robbed, hit in the head with a crowbar, and ends up in the hospital. And that one moment completely changed his trajectory. It kicked off this crazy journey that took him through super strict fundamentalism, then all the way to deep skepticism, and finally brought him back to a much simpler faith focused on just following Jesus. Then you have Chris. He grew up smack in the middle of the Bible Belt. But for him, faith wasn't just, something you did on Sundays. It became incredibly real when he saw his own father, who was an alcoholic and abusive, go through this absolutely radical transformation. Witnessing that change firsthand shaped everything for him, and eventually led him to leave Florida to go plant a church in one of the most secular parts of the country, up in Vermont. And finally, there's JC. Now, JC was already a pastor for a long time, had a great job at a big, successful church. And one day, he just feels this pull to leave it all behind, so he and his family pack everything up, move back to their old hometown with no job, no house, no plan, just this feeling that it's what they were supposed to do. And get this, they end up starting a whole new church right from scratch in a barn, and it's just exploded.
So you've got these three guys, three completely different stories, right? And they all land on this one central idea. It's an idea so important, they named their whole project after it. And it's a name that goes all the way back to the very beginning of Christianity.
Before anyone ever used the word Christianity, the followers of Jesus were just called followers of the way. And that name says it all, doesn't it? It wasn't about a belief system you checked off a list. It was a complete way of life, a path you walked that literally shaped everything you did.
And they break it down into these three parts. First, it was a way of life, like actual tangible things you did, practices and habits. Second, it was a way of seeing. It gave you a whole new lens to look at the world. And third, it was a way of becoming, an active, ongoing process of being changed from the inside out.
Okay, so if this way is so foundational, why is it that so many of us get stuck? I mean, it's a real problem. Well, the guys in this conversation point to two huge roadblocks that keep people from moving past that initial moment of freedom and into that deeper life of formation. The first roadblock is, it's modern life. They're not talking about things that are inherently evil. Instead, they call them the multipliers. Good things that just multiply and multiply until they've quietly taken over everything. Just think about your own life, right? The crazy youth sports schedules, the endless options for entertainment on Netflix, the constant buzz from social media, the pressure to hustle in your career. The sheer pace of it all builds this giant wall of noise that makes the slow, quiet, deep work of formation feel almost impossible.
And the second roadblock they talk about, this one hits a little closer to home for a lot of people. It's actually a structural problem within the church itself. They make the point that somewhere along the line, a lot of churches started trading real intimacy for just activity. The focus becomes all about movement, getting people to show up, getting them involved, keeping them busy. And we start to think that a busy church must be a spiritually mature church. But the real danger is that you can have a whole lot of movement with any real depth.
Okay, so after laying out the problem so clearly, the conversation takes a turn. It moves from, here's why we get stuck, to, so what do we actually do about it? It's all about the mindset shift that's needed for real, lasting change to happen. And they don't pull any punches when it comes to what's required.
Chris uses this really intense, even shocking language to talk about when Jesus called his first disciples. He says Jesus wasn't just inviting them to, add a following me hobby to their already busy lives. No, he was telling them to kill what they were doing, to end their old way of life, their family business, their entire identity, so they could start something completely new. It's this radical call to finally deal with all our distractions.
And this is so important. They make it crystal clear that this is not a solo mission. This isn't about you locking yourself in a closet with your Bible to try and become a better person on your own. Real formation, they argue, only ever happens in relationship with other people. It needs the messy, real-life stuff, confession, accountability, encouragement, and even correction that can only happen in a real community.
And this all leads to the final, really challenging question they leave you with. It's a question for all of us to honestly wrestle with. Forget what you say you believe. Forget the church you go to. If a total stranger just watched your life for 1 week, your calendar, your bank account, where your time goes, what would they say you're really following? What does your actual life say is most important to you?